Global security situation is in its worst shape since the conclusion of World War II. The fact that we are faced with tremendous challenges can be covered by a global consensus, I believe. But there is no consensus around what kind of conclusions should be drawn in this regard. In the West, in our Western political family, the conclusion is isolation, elimination of dialogue, cutting the channels of communication, and enforcing military solutions between quotation marks because they are never solutions. Our answer is totally different. We do believe that the current global situation is a reason to reinforce and to strengthen diplomacy, to have a more active dialogue than ever before. Our clear experience says that we can only lose with a world being divided into blocks. Therefore, we do not want to return to such a situation. What we want is connectivity. What do we mean under connectivity? For us, connectivity means global cooperation based on mutual respect, respect to rules of international law, and aiming at mutual benefits. If this works out, then we win. But if the world is being divided into blocks again, we definitely lose. We Hungarians are members, proud members of the European integration. We have many debates. Many of them are very spectacular. Many of them are being covered by your press as well. But we Hungarians know very well that strong European Union and strong Hungary are going hand in hand with each other. I even remember, it was not a long time ago, there was an open discussion about a Eurasian economic and commercial area. The former German Chancellor even spoke about a common commercial area starting from Lisbon, ending at Vladivostok, just a couple of years ago. And there was a very stable basis of the European economic growth. What was that? That was a combination of highly developed Western technologies and easily accessible, cheap energy sources from Russia. This was the basis. But currently, unfortunately, the situation is totally different. Common sense has been replaced by the approach of over-politicizing and over-ideologizing everything. And step by step, unfortunately, the European Union has isolated itself from the major players of global economy. And unfortunately, partly this phenomenon has been reflected in the so-called customs agreement between the United States and the European Union. This was the best deal ever for the United States and the worst deal of the century for the European Union. Many of us in the European Union had a secondary feeling of shame seeing Madame von der Leyen and her delegation sitting and clapping there for a trade agreement which ends up in customs to be paid by the European companies 6 times compared to before. Not plus 6%, 6 times. If I was an American citizen, I would definitely give standing ovation to the president. The European Union has isolated itself from China as well, by considering China as a systematic rival. Well, we Hungarians, we don't want to be in a rivalry regarding systems with China. They do have their own system, we do have our system. Let's cooperate. Let's take the mutual benefits out of this cooperation. If something doesn't work 19 times, why would you try the 20th? What's your hope? And if you look at the sanctions policy, not politically, not ideologically, but practically, according to our analysis, those sanctions have made more harms to the European economy than to the Russian one. And European Union has isolated itself from the continent of the future, namely Africa as well. Why? Because they always want to confuse, Brussels, they always want to confuse crazy ideologies with practical things like trade and economy. And they consider the acceptance of these crazy ideologies by the Africans as a precondition of the cooperation. And the European Union is being overruled by a crazy and extremely aggressive gender ideology, from which we Hungarians protect ourselves in a way that we have put into our constitution, that family is being composed of a mother, a father and children, where mother is a woman and father is a man. In order for the European Union to become strong again, changes must be made. 3 major changes. First, we want to bring back peace to the eastern part of Europe. We have to replace pro-war strategy by a pro-peace strategy. All Europeans should replace undermining the peace efforts of President Trump by helping the peace efforts of President Trump to be successful. We have to come back to rationality. Instead of over-politicizing those purely physical things like energy supplies. Over-politicizing energy supplies undermines and sacrifices the security of energy supplies. And who is the victim if the energy supply is being undermined? It's the people. And there's no textbook of economic science which would tell you it makes sense to replace a cheap and reliable resource by a more expensive and less reliable one. The third major change we have to make is to come back to the Eurasian dialogue. Eurasian dialogue is one of the most important pillars of global dialogue. If you think about the 2 continents, Europe and Asia, we are the 2 continents on Earth which are not being divided by geography. We are not being divided by geography. So, therefore, we have seen it and we have experienced it. That when the Eurasian cooperation worked, it worked out well.
Как всегда, блестящая, яркая